NOS4A22, Book 2, Trust No One, Chapter 10, The Good Ones. Billions of translucent, vibrant, spiraling corkscrew-shaped plasma pigtails were forming a wall at the end of the opening. Finally, they were free from the seemingly endless tube with the shadow people behind them. Before they had reached the end, some of the shadow beings put their fingers on the edges of the open slit on the tube. One actually reached in and touched Cammy, and it gave her spirit a chill deep to the core of her soul, so deep that Stewart felt it, and that sensation bothered him a great deal. They squeezed through this core wall like bugs caught in the center of a giant sunflower and went through the other side. Cammy was feeling weird and didn't realize that it was from the scratch of the old gypsy woman. The woman did practice witchcraft and had the black magic on her fingertips. She was putting a curse on her enemies unrelated to Cammy and Stewart. This knowledge creeped into Cammy's spirit and gave her demonic visions of who the woman was, as well as Stewart's mother. Your mother really was a demon, oh God! The old woman showed me. I don't know how, Stu, I don't understand, but I am seeing these things. Can you see them? Please tell me you can see them. Cammy cried out to Stu in the street in the flesh world. In the dark realm, they were in a place with giant castles of strange construction, spouting out from one another like pieces of ginger root, very peculiar in design. Stewart didn't want to tell her the truth that no, he didn't see what she was seeing, so he put his hand on her arm where the scratch is, but what he saw in the dark spirit realm was her shredded spirit limb, so he began to mold it back together with his own spirit. Miraculously, in the flesh and blood world, her arm began to leak this black blood. The black magic was leaving her body from the touch of his spirit. Can you still see it, these things? Stu calmly asked the first time he had been calmed in a very long time. No, they're gone now. I think you saved me from something, Cammy said, bewildered in amazement. I think you're right. The demon that is my mother did something that attached itself to you, but it left you right now when I touched you, as I tried to fix your arm from what she had done to you. Stu didn't see what actually happened in the flesh, but what he saw was meaningful. Cammy was calmed by seeing his calmness. It gave them enough peace to make them strong for their long day of suffering ahead of them. They walked hand in hand on the sidewalk, passing businesses that were still closed. The only place that was open on their side of the street was a coffee shop. The convenience store on the corner across the street was open, and there were no customers because it was so early on a Saturday. A younger couple sat at a table and drank their coffee outside by the shop window as they faced each other. They turned their heads and followed Stewart and Cammy as they walked by hand in hand. Somehow, they were seeing this couple as people, the people they really were. The landscape was distorted and nothing like what was there in the real world of flesh and blood, but for some reason, this couple were seen by Cammy and Stu as they appeared in three-dimensional reality. The young couple looked back at each other, and in agreement, with only a reciprocated nod, one after the other, the young man, only a little older than Stewart by maybe a couple years, got up out of his chair and pushed it under the table to follow Cammy and Stewart to try and stop them. Hey! The young man stopped a couple feet behind them and said to the backs of their heads, We don't want any trouble. We have enough already, okay? Stewart calmly spoke after slowly and apprehensively turning around in a dragging pivot motion with a disturbed look on his face. I'm not stopping you to make any trouble. You look like you need help. Did someone hurt you guys? The young man was genuinely concerned. Yes, we need help. You think you can help us? Cammy said with big eyes that showed her pain. Come with me and my girlfriend here. Will you start the car, babe? The young man put his hands over his mouth like a loudspeaker horn. Oh, good. The young woman quickly jumped up out of her chair to go to their car as her boyfriend guided them to it, opening the back passenger seat that was by the sidewalk. Stewart let himself in first to jump in and slide to the other side so that it would be easy for Cammy to get in the car and sit down. They both sat there in that car, baffled that they were in a car within the dark spirit realm. I don't believe this, Stu. How could this be happening? Cammy asked with a loud whisper that the couple up front could still hear. I don't know, Cammy, but we gotta take their help. I don't know how else we can make it through the day. That bad, huh? The young man turned quickly back at them and asked with a concerned look as he tried to give them a pitiful smile. I don't know what's going on, but me and my boyfriend saw you two were hurt, and I thought you two looked so cute walking hand in hand, even if you're all bloody, the young woman driving said as she stayed focused on the road. Thank you. Yes, we are hurt very bad, more than you can tell. Where are you taking us? Cammy tried not to panic, but it was obvious that she was more than concerned. Don't worry. We're taking you to our apartment. Lori here is a nurse. We're gonna patch you two up in no time, and you can be on your way whenever you feel good enough, okay? So don't worry, the young man assured them. We can never repay you for this. You're both a real gift to us. We wouldn't have made it without your help, Cammy said as she had tears uncontrollably roll down her cheeks. We're just doing what we would hope someone would do for us. Please try to relax and enjoy the ride, okay? We have about 30 minutes until we get home. We live just outside of town. Lori had tried to comfort them with the thought of rest. Thank you, Stewart said, humbled as he tried to hide the mask on his face under his large brimmed hat. So what's with the hat, my man? Stu, you don't have to hide your face in here. You're safe with us, the young man said as he felt a little uncomfortable after noticing Stewart really going the extra mile to slump down in his seat as he hid under that hat. Please don't make him show you his face. He's very insecure of his scars, and that's why he wears a big hat. It's to hide the fact that he wears a flesh-colored mask. Cammy quickly defended Stewart with a cover-up excuse of his self-mutilation. Oh my God, Jonathan, tell them you're sorry. I'm so sorry. Lori jumped in. Shit, I'm really sorry. It's none of my business. You don't have to tell me anything, okay? We're just here to help you, and that's what we're gonna do. Please forgive me. Jonathan really seemed sincere in his attempt of an apology. It's okay. I'm glad we got that out of the way, Stu asserted. I like the hat. It looks cool. Wish I had one. Jonathan tried to be friendly as he was nervous, but really did like the hat. You really like the hat, Jonathan? Cammy thought it was funny when I gave her one like it. Stu looked up and gave quick eye contact to try and ease the tension. I really do. It's a kind of old style you don't see anymore, you know? Jonathan, enthused, perked up. That's for sure. Cammy laughed the first time in a long time. I can't tell you how happy I am right now. This is so wonderful. Maybe once we fix you two up, we can become friends, Lori said as she looked in the mirror, making eye contact with Cammy. I like that. I would love that, Lori, thank you, Cammy said, but knew that they would only be friends for one more day before their bodies had no more life in them. All right then, that settles it. Stu, Cammy, we just became friends, Jonathan said with a grin, looking at them above the brim of his glasses. I can't wait to get to know you two, Lori said as she bumped her elbow against Jonathan's arm, looked at him and grinned. All right, That's enough out of us. We'll let you two snuggle up back there and enjoy a quiet ride until we get home. Oh, by the way, it's not a typical city apartment. These are actually single level. Only ones like it near the city. So I say you two will be able to relax, I mean it. There's a little more privacy than what you're probably used to. Jonathan tried to give them a good thought before he shut his mouth for the rest of the ride. That's good to hear, Cammy said as she smiled and put her head on Stewart's shoulder. Cammy looked out the window and wasn't seeing what Lori and Jonathan thought she was looking at. Cammy was doing her best to seem relaxed and unperturbed as she sent her eyes all over the place. There were more of these buildings that resembled deformed pieces of ginger root that sprouted from one another in an impossible architecture. It absolutely was a sight to behold, and she couldn't help herself to marvel at this insane construction of a city like nothing she had ever thought possible. Stewart kept his hat over his face and tried to sleep after Cammy soothed him as well as herself by resting her head on his shoulder for about a good 15 minutes. For the remainder of the ride, though, Cammy just couldn't help herself to look out that window and gaze upon the strange dark spirit realm. These little holes the size of human mouths began appearing throughout the morning air outside, spread near and far. Cammy couldn't help but jerk her head and neck in an obvious movement to take a more focused look at this curious thing. There were these little mouth-like things that had seemed to appear out of thin air, out of nowhere. They began gently blowing a type of blue mist in all sorts of directions, in which none of them coincided with one another to make any kind of sense. This completely unnatural occurrence was not exactly a surprise to Cammy, but yet she wondered at this thing and what it could be or what it meant. She kept trying to focus her thoughts of gathering her senses about her, although she knew her mind was just about completely gone and void from any kind of rationality or sanity. The blue mist sprayed and spewed in every kind of direction, eventually making a pattern of an outline throughout the sky. The sky in the dark spirit realm was glowing purple outside of the city where they had just exited. The blue pattern that was being formed was illuminated by the purple glow of the dark spirit sky, and more of the outline became revealed as the details became quite apparent. These floating mouths that blew this thing into being formed a picture, like a painting in the sky, of a city that was looking like a city underwater. Red began to come out of these mouths resembling blood, and the revelation was complete now to Cammy. The city was flooded with water, then blood, then water again, as the red dissipated and blue came out again from these floating mouths, as they seemed to be. In her mind, she was registering this to mean one extremely specific thing. Something was showing her that blood is always washed away in this city. Time and time again, these things have happened since the beginning of time, and she just knew it. The world was constantly and consistently cleansing itself because life was constantly contaminating the earth with its filth and its evil. So evil is always sent to rid evil, as that is the way of the earth. Cammy tried to find comfort in these thoughts and wanted to think of being with Stewart and his spirit once life had left their bodies. She knew that her day was just beginning, though, and Lamb wasn't going to let it be so easy for her or Stu. This day was their day of punishment, and although they were finding a way to escape more horror and death she couldn't even begin to fathom that was being caused by her and Stewart's hands, she wondered if it would have been better to stay there in the city where they could die before the plan could become complete that Lamb had put in place for their second death. and infinite torture. Cammy ultimately understood that there would be no escaping this day of punishment without being taken by the Keeper of Time past the Gatekeeper to that most dreaded place. So she hoped that she wouldn't bring harm to Laurie and Jonathan. She really truly found some goodness within herself without selfishness or desire beyond. This woke Stu, and he smiled at her in the flesh, but in the spirit world, as they saw each other, it was a pure feeling. This was a beautiful moment for them both, as they shared a feeling that was beginning to redeem them, proving they knew what real true love is, because they were sharing a compassionate feeling between each other about these people who were risking their lives and didn't even know it, to help Cammy and Stu, who were far beyond saving. At least they could be saved in a matter that mattered. This is what was really important. There was an understanding that was so beautiful in that moment that tears of joy began flowing down Cammy's face, and it made Stu's eyes well also. And just before they arrived to that peaceful apartment complex where Laurie and Jonathan called home, Cammy and Stu had a pivotal moment that had saved the last bit of goodness that was always within them. Of course, goodness never met its potential with Stuart or Cammy in their short lives. This was due to the fact of being taught to live a certain way that was damning to their flesh bodies, but not their spirit souls, although it took quite the toll on their hearts. Their hearts experienced a great deal of pain that most people can't handle or live through. This was their source of strength. It had developed a great need to find love, and so their spirit souls found each other somehow, miraculously. When you realize just how amazing this is and what really happened, how it happened, the truth of it all, the story is sure to blow your mind. Good luck retaining your old ways of thinking after their story is told and all laid out on the table before you to sort out for yourself. Soon enough, when this story is all told, you will have to come to the conclusion that we all must be faced with. Beauty in tragedy. Like Romeo and Juliet, their love was too strong to be kept confined within the flesh.